Hello, everybody. Welcome here. This particular session is going to be in English, and it's going to be about how to crowdsource the future of mobility. My name is Stefanie Söhnchen, and I moderate this track on behalf of Daimler and the moovel GmbH, who deal with mobility, of course, but also the future of mobility and what's going to change about mobility and how we can offer services that come in when you maybe don't want to have a private car. So we have our own hashtag for this track. It's called Rethink Mobility. We have a few different sessions on this track, and the hashtag is RTHNK, Rethink without the vocals, for the people who joined new. So feel free to use that in order to exchange and maybe for us also to answer some of your questions later. So this project that I'm going to show you, I worked on for about a year. And I'm not going to talk a lot about the project today. I'm going to talk about what went wrong with it, because I personally think it's best to learn from other people's failures and to sort of try and not do them. And I have some support, luckily, on that from the supplier that we did the crowdsourcing part with. I'm going to show you the platform just very briefly so you get an idea what we're actually talking about in a minute. And this supplier that we're working with is called Chaordix, from Chaos and Order. And they're actually based in Calgary, Canada. And they have this software that lets you do all sorts of awesome crowdsourcing stuff if you use it right, which you're going to see what we did with it in parts. And Rob Dawson is here from Chaordix. Come up and join me, please, so I'm not so lonely anymore. And he's the Chief Marketing Officer, and we're going to go through this together. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks very much, Stephanie.
So this is going to be about lessons learned, and I'm going to show you what we sort of tried to do and what didn't work, and then Rob's going to chime in with his experience of big communities like Lego Ideas is something that Chaordix is also doing that you maybe are familiar with, what worked there and why it has to be different here in this particular case. I'm also happy to have your questions in case you're wondering things or you are curious about things. The stage managers are around with microphones, so if you have a signal to me, then I can, I'm happy to answer your questions as well. Okay, it's a bit, nerve-wracking to go in front of people you don't know and sort of reveal your failures, but we're going to try and do it anyways. So this is the logo of Move Forward, and I have the clicky thingy in my pocket, actually. Okay, so what is Move Forward? Move Forward is supposed to be the first online platform that deals with the future of mobility in an absolutely new way. It combines 3 ways of communicating that I'm going to come to. But it combines these 3, and I have put crowd innovation as the first because that's our main topic. Crowd innovation is a combined word between crowdsourcing, which is most of the time offering micro-tasks to different people, and open innovation, which is completely giving up your information for somebody else to do with it. And we are combining these 2 words in crowd innovation. But then there is more. So we have this company strategy part where our management reveals their strategy of the mobility of the future, what they think is going to come, why it's going to come, and when it's going to come in a multimedia way. We have an infographic and a video and an article that support this topic, and this is also something that German companies don't do a lot. That the management, and it's not a glamorous video that we do there, it's them in their work clothes, in our parking lot, in the mobility situation, telling you what self-parking cars are going to do in the future. And then we also have a magazine where international authors, and I mean international authors, we have people from India, South America, everywhere are talking about the changes in mobility that they see, and I'm going to show you the topics in a minute that they're covering. But on this platform you find these 3 combined, this magazine, the company strategy, and the crowdsourcing, and nobody else is doing that right now for the future of mobility, or at all really. So this is the idea that is behind this. Our CEO, he is the guy who also invented Car2Go and the moovel app that you maybe know from us. He's the visionary who identifies topics like this, and he wanted to have this platform so we can transparently communicate the company strategy, cover topics journalistically, so not only our employees are writing there, it's really researchers, journalists, experts, designers, product developers that are in the field developing the cars and infrastructure of the future. And then we also, of course, want to source new talents and ideas with that crowdsourcing part that we're working on. So the goal was to, whenever somebody wants to read, know, or discuss something about the future of mobility, that they're going to come to us. So you have to have big goals, right? Okay, so this is just the setup so you know how it works. It's how the parts work together is also a reason why some things maybe didn't work the way they work with other platforms, so this is important for your background. You see all of the things come together in the front page where you see parts of the community and the articles and stuff like that. And then you have the magazine, which is the blue part here, and you have 3 topics that our CEO chose because of agenda setting reasons. He thinks that these are the topics that will define the dialogue about the future of mobility, and this is what society should be talking about in the future and also right now. So you have something like personal travel, means of transportation. Smart mobility is about the smartphone and how that helps us to organize mobility. Traffic and tracing is about big data and the whole discussion about what can we trace, what should we trace, how should we work with that data. Mobility and living is how will our cities develop, how will we grow older, how will minorities use new mobility concepts like autonomous driving, what do we need for people with disabilities in cities, how will infrastructure change, all of that. The same for country living, but just outside of cities. And then we have a whole section of a legal framework where our legal team writes 1 article per week, but we're also inviting other lawyers around the world to talk about what laws need to change in order to make the future of mobility happen, like stuff that's happening in India right now that make autonomous driving more likely than in Germany, and this way of looking at things. Then we have the About Us page where the strategy is located and the crowdsourcing where you also find articles from the magazine, but then also the crowdsourcing activities. You see here that the strategy is sort of in this About Us section. And this is one of the big decisions that you're going to see in this as well, that we're not going to talk about ourselves. We're not talking about our products. We're not talking about the company. We're not talking about the people who work there. And that is the rule for everybody who wants to write on there. They have like a little profile where they can write, I'm the CEO of so-and-so, I'm an engineer for this and this, but we don't talk about products. So you will not find any car names, any names of apps or services in there, because we wanted to have a dialogue that is global and that is objective and to make it really relevant. You see the little navigation down here, how it actually looks. Okay, so I tried to phrase the lessons that we learned in a sort of wisdom-y way. I hope you can see that. So, my first lesson that I learned and we as a company learned is, she who wants to start something from scratch on the internet needs patience. I guess that's a lesson that most of the people who started a blog or a website or anything really on the internet had to learn, that it's not going to just explode overnight. It's not... Okay, I'm not naive in that way that I thought that, you know, we're going to be famous overnight. It happens to people, but it's not a general thing. But it just takes a lot of effort, and it takes months, and it takes the support of your superiors and your CEO and your company to know that. I think that's a big learning here, that starting something like that, having a dialogue about the future of mobility with an unknown crowd, is something that takes time. But on the other hand, we thought that's something we want to do because the mobility of tomorrow is going to affect every single one of us. It's going to, no matter where we are, if we are in a big city like the Asian cities, the mega cities, or if we are living in a rural area, this is something that we should all be concerned about. And stuff like autonomous driving has not been properly discussed yet. I think society hasn't realized what's going to happen to us, our cities, our lives, our relationships, everything, how our flats look once we have autonomous driving, because these cars can actually be part of our flat if we want. So there's a whole lot of dialogue that hasn't happened yet, but we want to have it. But it's hard, because it's not something that you can just leap into, but you maybe have an opinion about it, and we want to hear it. So not being famous overnight or not having the best reach overnight has consequences for search engine optimization or the reach that you have on a search engine. It has an effect on community growth and participation. Why did I put it here? Our community is growing, but it is, you know, you can't compare it to like our Facebook channel for Car2Go on Facebook, as I said. But it's growing, and it just needs an understanding why this works and why it doesn't work. But I have Rob, who can explain this a little bit more, because he has the insight on why we learned this lesson and what we can learn from it, like what we can do better.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. As Stephanie said, she came to us at Chaordix with quite a large challenge, and the challenge was we want to launch a community to talk about the future of mobility, but it's an unbranded community, or it's a new brand, and we want no mention of product or brand on it. So what we know through our experience in crowdsourcing, and we develop crowdsourcing communities for a number of large brands, is that first and foremost what you need is affinity. And when we say affinity, ideally that's affinity for a brand, but also affinity for a topic area as well can be important. And as Stephanie said, when you're starting something new, you need to build that affinity. You need to spend time and effort educating the crowd on the purpose and why they want to be involved and what the motivations for them are going to be. So these are all important things, the affinity building, as well looking for those early adopters. So just like when you would launch a brand, and particularly if you're launching a brand with limited resources, look for those early adopters, those influencers that can use their social reach to build that community further. So these are the things, these are the learnings from this particular community that we're taking forward and really looking to build it over time.
Absolutely. I think that the new brand thing is a definite thing that we have to face, because if you look at other crowdsourcing communities, most of them revolve around brands or products, where people are asked to develop a certain extra product in a line, may it be nail polish or candy or whatever, or toys, to just name a few examples that you might know without naming the brands. But it's really easy for consumers who know the brands to relate and then do something with it, or have like this realm of imagination that is framed by the brand to work in. And we don't have that. We just had that logo that you see, which is based on a super cool transsegrity model that I don't know, but the designers know. And that's it. And you have never seen it before. And now you're supposed to talk about how you commute to work and how we're going to solve all the big mobility problems of the future. And if your car parks itself, and where would you use that? That is just something else than creating a new piece of candy for a brand that you know.
The other thing that I wanted to mention as well is, once you have that affinity and you've started to build a community, we like to say to our clients that because you're crowdsourcing, because you're looking to the crowd to innovate or to join the discussion, that you don't own your brand anymore. You're definitely a stakeholder in that brand, but you need to be open to the possibilities of where that brand could go. And I think that's something definitely in the Move Forward community, that there is that openness for not really knowing where the dialogue is going to go, but being open to, to being part of that journey.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point of it, that we don't know the answers, and we know that we don't know, but we want them still. Okay, second thing that's maybe not working. So, he who doesn't listen to the user experience people is either brave or a fool or both. I am a very aesthetical person, and I have certain ideals about design, and I chose the design that you can see a little bit here, but maybe later on the slide. So we chose angles in them a lot, which is creating a flowing motion, which is supposed to underline what we're going to do with the motion and have a futuristic look. We're trying to use new user experience things to make it interesting and to also have the relevance to be a futuristic project. But of course, lots of these things are experiments. For example, I added context-sensitive commenting. And people of you who know Medium magazine, for example, or Quartz, they know their system. Like you have a paragraph of writing, and then you can click and comment on that specific paragraph, which I think is genius, because then you know what you're actually talking about, and you're not somewhere below the text, and you maybe don't remember what exactly it was, and then you have to scroll up and down. So we tried to introduce that, but because of the software we're using, the comment slides in from the side, and then it is a long thing down, and it has the same effect. You have to scroll up and down because it's not really context sensitive, and we're about to change that. Like, that's not working, and dialogue is one of our KPIs, so that's something we need to change. And then something that's working well on the theoretical level is the believer button, which is, I love this one, it's our like button. But I didn't want something like. I wanted, when it comes to talking about the future of mobility and pitching your ideas, I wanted people to say, I believe in you. I believe in your idea. I believe in you as a person. And that's why I'm going to give you this belief, which I hope was something more deep than a like. But we have to explain it to people because they are used to the like. And I'm going to show it to you briefly on this side. You see it here. And it has this little hover text. And I think it's an awesome thing because it's part of the spirit that we wanted to create in the community, but it's not obvious in a user experience way. And here you see the commenting, so it slides out when you click on this, but this is what 2 comments look like on the side of an article, which make it super hard to interact with it, and we have to change that. And that's just something we're going through right now. The project cost a lot of money and a lot of time. And now I have to go and say, look, guys, this isn't working. Like, you want to achieve this, and this isn't working, and this is not a culture we have in Germany, as far as I have experienced. To go, and we launched on January 7th, and I'm having this conversation about the comments since last month, where I go, okay, guys, I need more money to change what I just launched 3 months ago. And this is a culture that, especially in a startup environment that we have, is possible, but we also have to do it even though it's probably not likely. This is, you can see the design here with the boxes and the angles a little bit, but the learnings from this are going to come from Rob again.
And really simple here. When it comes to user experience, try lots of different things. And you have the ability, particularly in a community like Move Forward, where there's a number of different activities that people can do. So you can see what's working, you can see what's not working. And really it's about tweaking, it's about refining as you go, and not waiting for the next big launch to make all of your changes. This is a dynamic environment, it's a dynamic community that we're creating, and so we need to be flexible as we go.
But the good thing of having somebody there who has a software as a service is also that they have experience what works and what doesn't work. What are things, for example, in communities that you're doing otherwise that work really well?
Well, we always look for ways to engage the users. So we have there's a gamification aspect, and I'll speak a little bit more to this a little bit later. But looking for ways that what's going to motivate people to contribute. There's gamification, there's points-based systems, there's having virtual money to be able to allocate to different aspects of the community. These sorts of things really help people to create some stickiness within the community and have people engage in different ways.
So the third lesson is, she who seeks answers must ask the right number of people the right questions. It's really hard to ask the right questions. I think people who are doing crowdsourcing probably know this, but you have, in this crowd, you have a lot of different people who need different triggers and different ways of phrasing things. So with most of the things, you can't do A/B testing, but we are trying to offer different sorts of levels of hurdles that you can do something. So we have a different range of activities and different ways of addressing people and trying to get them into the community, but you need to figure out how to address the people, and if you have the right people, that's something that I really have to learn right now, because of course we had lots of people coming in, but you have to ask, who is missing from my community to answer these questions, because not everybody can answer the same questions. The learnings from that, Rob?
Yeah, so the learnings and a few different things around the people within a community. And, at Chaordix, we've been building crowdsourcing communities since 2008, way back when crowdsourcing was new. We've identified there's about 10 to 12 typologies of people that will come into a crowdsourcing community. And think of it just like a community, if you live in a small village, not everybody plays the same role. People play different roles. And so, again, you need to have the ability for people to contribute in different ways. So Stefanie might be a creator. She might come up with amazing ideas. I'm a collaborator, so I'll work with those ideas and help to improve them. Other people are socializers, where they don't necessarily come up with the idea or even add to them, but they socialize them out to the crowd and say, hey, these two people are having this interesting conversation. Why don't you listen in and see if you believe in it or see if you can improve upon it? So those are just examples of the different typologies. And so, what's important within a crowdsourcing community is to have different activities, different ways people can contribute. We do storytelling activities, we do quantitative surveys, quick questions where you can do polls. We have the ability for people to vote or to believe in something. We have the ability for people to comment on things. So again, just a variety of activities is very helpful. And then in terms of recruiting the right people, I think it's about recruiting a mix of people. Again, we have the ability within a community like this to bring in experts, people that are very knowledgeable in the area that can be sort of the rock stars of the community that other people want to follow. And so it's about having the right mix of people, and these are the sorts of things that we're working on.
He who seeks answers won't get a large number of them without something in return. I'm also a very idealistic person, and I said I want people in the community who are there because they really want to change the world. And they want to improve the mobility of tomorrow for themselves and the generations to come. But it doesn't work like that. So we have we call it achievement framework, where you can earn a lot of badges, even ones that only I can give you, so you're super special, or I can push you on the dashboard so the entire community sees your idea. A lot of non-monetary, intrinsic things that are there. But a lot of people won't answer even simple questions if there's nothing in it for them. So
again, and we talk about intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. And so intrinsic are things that are within me. So I feel motivated, self-motivated to participate. Extrinsic are rewards that come from the outside. And so, again, it's important to have a balance of those two things. I think intrinsically, there's definitely a number of people within the community who want to contribute to this dialogue. They want to be a part of shaping the future of mobility. But there are also people that would go, I'm interested in that, but you're competing for my time. There's lots of things that I could be doing. What's in it for me? And so it's about having that balance. Extrinsic rewards can be things like contests, or it doesn't have to be, the old way of doing things like market research where you pay somebody for contributing to a conversation. It can be other sorts of motivations. And so those things often help to bring people in initially, and then they see the momentum, they enjoy being part of the dialogue, and so it's the intrinsic motivations that sort of take over. Again, we do a lot, and I think we've done a really good job with badging and having the ability to win sort of recognition. Other things that we do is we can create a leaderboard of people within the community and who are the top performers and what did they do to get there. We run quite a large community for Lego, and there it's about achieving status with your peers and being one of those top performers within the community, and it's very intuitive in terms of how you get to that.
She who brings elements together in a new way must craft new ways for them to work. I think this is the challenge of those 3 ways of communication. How do we connect the magazine part with the community and the other way around? How do we have people that read our articles, which are not few, get into the community and also share their ideas, get in there and tell us how they commute to work? So in the beginning we had ways that they were more coexisting, and right now we're working on ways to connect them better through real estate on the platform and stuff like that. We try to think about it, but it's really, if you combine these new ways of communications, people will go sort of into silos of communications. is what we found.
So again, and this is again new learning for all of us, because we're really integrating a magazine content with a crowdsourcing community where we're looking for people to contribute to the conversation and to ultimately innovate. And so it's really looking for ways to integrate those two lines of communication. And so that can be giving the authors of the magazine profile within the community, making it easy for the crowd to contribute to those conversations, and even for the crowd to be part of the magazine, and for it all to sort of come together that way.
And the last one, he who walks new paths must know and remember where he is going. I think that is easily said, because of course we agreed on KPIs, and because of course we had a strategy, and of course the management knew where we were going with this. But with crowdsourcing, you can ask anything. I mean, about the future of mobility, you can go anywhere you want. And it's important to remember what were those KPIs, what was actually the success you wanted. I mean, of course, we want to be the platform where everybody comes to and reads and discusses about the future of mobility. But when we actually started, what were our KPIs? So something like agenda setting or dialogue are part of our KPIs, and how do you quantify that? So you have to remember to see, is what you're doing actually the right thing, and not just lose yourself in the amount of options that you actually have.
Yeah, so a really good point. When we build crowdsourcing communities, obviously metrics, KPIs are important, but they're not necessarily the same KPIs as you would have with your social media efforts or even your website. There's a lot of rich content that comes through the qualitative aspects of what's being created in the community, and the insights that come out of that, and the ideas that come out of that. So we want to make sure that we understand what are the objectives of the community, and then look for ways and proof points in terms of how the community is delivering on those objectives. Really, and if you look at the definition of crowdsourcing, for crowdsourcing to work truly, the community needs to create. So you need to put the crowd to work. You need to solve problems. You need to put questions in front of them where they're creating. And so looking for those outcomes is really important. And I would say equally important to the particular metrics of traffic and volume and that sort of thing.
And also revisiting your KPIs, because before we started, we had this idea about what it was going to be. And when stuff doesn't work, it's not like I'm saying, okay, you can just throw your KPIs out of the window. You shouldn't do that. But you need to see, do they actually make sense in the environment that I am facing now? And then have a dialogue about that, whether it's actually making sense what you're trying to achieve. Okay, the summary. This is basically just what I've said, so don't be afraid about all the text. She who seeks the wisdom of a crowd needs to be ready to have her own wisdom tested. And I think this is really the biggest learning about this, that if you're trying to do crowdsourcing, and it's not about a brand, or it's not that you're an NGO and you're trying to tackle specific problems where you're looking for specific answers, then you have to have a plan, but also be prepared that it might not be working and that you have to change it fast if you don't want to fail with your project. So yeah, you can see those things that we said before, and I'm happy to maybe have one or two questions if you're interested. Does anybody want to know something?
Regarding one of your last points, the KPIs, I understood that you think it's easy to be distracted with the KPIs because you can measure such enormous amount of things. But from my perspective, the KPIs are a way to know how far you reached your business goals. So what are the business goals basically? And how are the KPIs connected to the business goals? Mm-hmm.
So I am lucky that I have a management in this company who understands what online communication is. So something like getting new users, when we're not talking about brand, is not one of my KPIs. But one of our business goals is, as I said, agenda setting, to influence the topics people talk about, because we're going to think our products are going to be along those lines, and because we think this is going to make society ready to maybe bring those products to the market faster. So that's definitely a business thinking behind that. And something like dialogue, of course, as well, because you get reach, you get traction, you get associated with that sort of topic. We have some hard ones like that. Of course, we want to be well ranked on Google. We have dwelling time more than 5 minutes, which is not a bad goal for when you look at what dwelling times other social media get in like a row. So there are KPIs like that, and of course they are along the business lines, but the crowdsourcing is actually a different topic because we have 4 8-week programs a year. And in those programs I get to ask a lot of questions. And the question is, when do I ask what question, in what way, to whom? And that is really hard. And you have to see that it matches your KPIs and that you can prove that it does. Okay, I think we have to stop. I'm getting the stop it now signal from the front row. Thank you guys, we're going to be around if you have any more questions. Thank you. Oh, here's our contact detail if you're interested.
Thanks very much.